Everyone, welcome. My name is Rachel Jenkins, and I'm a transportation planner at the North Central Texas Council of Governments on the Transit Management and Planning team. My colleagues and I are responsible for updating the Regional Public Transportation Coordination Plan, Access North Texas, which is what we're here to talk about today. And specifically, we're here to talk about the strategies in the plan that relate to Collin County. Other than being a federal requirement, updating this plan helps us to understand and address the need for transit service in our region. It ensures that we can do the most to improve transit despite limited funding. And all of you here today are partners in improving transportation options in your communities. The goal of this meeting is to introduce you to Access North Texas and gather feedback that will inform the update of the plan. So here's what we plan to cover today. First, we're going to have a brief introduction to the North Central Texas Council of Governments, or NCTCOG for short, for those of you that may be less familiar. Then we'll go into a deeper dive on what Access North Texas actually is. We'll describe some existing services within Collin County. We'll talk about your feedback, talk about the Access North Texas survey, the Map Your Experience tool. Then we'll go through a timeline for the rest of the plan update so that you know what to expect. And then finally, we'll share our contact information. So the North Central Texas Council of Governments is a voluntary association of local governments established to assist local governments in planning for common needs, cooperating for mutual benefit, and coordinating for sound regional development. Our departments include community services, emergency preparedness, environment and development, public affairs, research and information services, workforce development, and of course, transportation. Each department provides assistance to local governments in their respective areas of expertise. The transportation department in particular plans for both highways and transit. Our plans range from short, 3, 5, 10 years to long-term plans, which can range over 20 years. The Transportation Department also serves as the lead agency for developing and implementing the Regional Public Transportation Coordination Plan, which, as we've said, in our region is known as Access North Texas. So Access North Texas is a plan to coordinate public transportation services and human services transportation. Through this process, we'll assess available transportation services and strive to identify additional transportation providers. It's also an assessment of transportation needs of older adults, individuals with disabilities, and low-income individuals. We use it to prioritize recommendations for limited federal and state funding, and this requires that we work with transportation disadvantaged individuals and their advocates to improve transportation options and coordinate existing service. The plan is not a source of unlimited funding. It's not a transportation service, it's not a detailed feasibility study, and it's not focused on highways and congestion. Alternatively, it's actually focused on accessibility. And finally, it does not dictate requirements for services and activities. Instead, it relies on local input, local conditions, and local leadership to guide coordination efforts. The plan was last updated in 2018, and you can find a copy of that plan on our website at www.accessnorthtexas.org. So there are a couple of existing transit providers within Collin County already. We of course have DART's transit services in a portion of the county, including bus and rail services, GoLink, Paratransit, and Vanpool, but also a special DART service called Collin County Rides, providing rides to the elderly and those with disabilities in certain portions of the county. Then there's Collin County Transit, a subsidized taxi voucher program through DCTA for participating cities in the McKinney Urban Transit District. That service is also limited to older adults, individuals with disabilities, and those with low income. DCTA also operates the Frisco Demand Response Service, a curb-to-curb demand response transit service for Frisco residents that meet certain qualifications. And you'll see a few other services listed towards the bottom. These are all going to be eligibility or location-based. So we have a nice mix of different kinds of things going on in Collin County currently. I also want to flag a few existing studies or reports that relate to transit in Collin County. And first and most importantly is the Collin County Transit Study, which is ongoing through our agency. And like some other studies that are going on right now, they are nearly done with this one. They're mainly working on final recommendations for what kinds of transit to be implemented throughout the county and how to actually fund it. They should have the final report out by the end of the summer. Also related, the Irving-Frisco Passenger Rail Corridor study has been happening concurrently and is in a similar stage of finalizing recommendations and implementation funding scenarios. I've listed a few others, and I'm just going to highlight a few of those. The Collin County Transit Needs Assessment and Planning Study, although a bit older, was a pretty comprehensive assessment of transit needs in Collin County, and many of the assertions it made are still true, namely that the county needs to be better served by transit options. Then there's the Collin County Mobility Plan, which found that many of the major thoroughfares in the county would have demand beyond capacity by 2035, and that alternative forms of mobility were still needed. Both DCTA and DART have done reports in the last couple of years with pieces that are related to Collin County specifically. And the City of Dallas, in coordination with the University of Texas at Arlington, produced a report in 2017 assessing transportation equity and access. While the report focused on the City of Dallas, some regional analysis was also conducted and has relevance to Collin County. So each of these studies or reports tells us something about transit or mobility in Collin County, and it's all very important. But Access North Texas, as I mentioned before, is just going to be a little bit different. It's very specifically focused on the feedback of stakeholders on their challenges and needs and translating those into strategies that can benefit each individual county and the region as a whole. So now I'm going to go through a few questions related to public transportation in Collin County. These questions mirror the questions on our Access North Texas survey. And remember, it's important for us to have both the individual member of the public perspective as well as the perspective of any agency or organization that serves users of public transportation. So please keep that in mind as we're going through these questions. Everyone's feedback will help us develop the plan. So the first question is, in the last 6 months, have you missed any trips due to lack of transportation? Or have anyone that you serve missed trips due to lack of transportation? These could be religious, medical, educational, entertainment and leisure, trips to the grocery store, or anything in between. Next question, what keeps you from getting where you need to go? What are the barriers that prevent you from accessing the things that you need by transportation? Which potential services would be most appealing to you or members of your household? Fixed route, on-demand, demand response, light rail? What would be a potential service that would appeal to you? What is the best way to enhance your transit experience? Make it more convenient, enjoyable, more comfortable? And finally, more generally, how can transit service be improved within your county, within Collin County specifically? So in the last update, there were 9 county-specific strategies identified. I'm going to read them right now. First is that in areas with no public transit service, we would assess community needs and implement transit. We would improve partnerships and coordination between existing transit providers to simplify cross-community trips. We'd identify, recruit, educate, and support influential champions for public transportation. We'd identify, evaluate, and implement where appropriate non-traditional ways to deliver public transportation service, including partnerships among public and private transportation providers. We increase service options in areas with limited access to medical appointments, job training, education, or job opportunities. We'd work with 211 at least twice a year to ensure transportation resources are up to date. We'd increase public awareness of available transportation services by conducting targeted marketing. Advocate for agencies to integrate funding sources to maximize efficiency. And finally, explore partnerships to increase the affordability of fares for those most in need. So with how transportation has changed since the 2018 update, do these strategies still make sense? Are there gaps in transportation that are not addressed in these strategies? Are there any other ideas on how to improve public transportation in Collin County? So in addition to attending this public meeting, there are 2 other opportunities for you to provide feedback for the update of Access North Texas. First is the Access North Texas survey. We have separate surveys for members of the public and agency organization representatives. The public survey is also available in both English and Spanish. If you're here today, please fill out the survey yourself as soon as possible and then share it with your networks. It really will only take you 10 minutes. Even if someone did not attend this meeting today, their feedback could be very valuable to our efforts. We can also provide a printable version of the survey by request if that's something that you need. Second is the Map Your Experience tool. This is an online map that allows users to select the location of the feedback that they're giving. And I think that this is a really cool tool and a really great and fun way to give feedback. So for instance, if you know that you or a client is having trouble reaching a particular destination by public transit, you can select that location directly on the map and then write a comment to let us know. This tool is great because it'll really help us to pinpoint needs with a lot of location clarity. So for instance, if you're having trouble getting to your doctor or to the grocery store to get your groceries, you can pinpoint that exact location on the map and say, this is a place that I'm having trouble accessing. And that's something that we'll be able to see and strategize about and hopefully address. Here's a timeline of our process to update the plan. We're currently in phase 1, public outreach. This is our second scheduled meeting for Collin County. So if you know anyone not here today that would have feedback to share, please share the last meeting with them, scheduled for Saturday at 11 a.m. We want to make sure the needs of Collin County are fully represented in the plan, and we need as much feedback as possible to do so. Other phases of the process will include data analysis and mapping, developing strategies and drafting the chapters, public comment, and then finally the release of the update. Finally, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out to us at any time. We do have an official Access North Texas email address that you can see there, or you can call the transportation department using the phone number listed there. I've also included the names and email addresses for myself and the rest of my colleagues currently working on the plan. As a reminder, if you're interested in scheduling a private meeting with any of us to discuss you or your client's transportation needs, we'd be more than happy to do that. Please reach out to us. Thank you. Have a great day.